Dear American university presidents, dear leaders of American scientific associations and societies, dear members of American national academies and laboratories, you disappointed us. You even betrayed us. We Israeli professors and administrators expected you to take a clear moral stand, to express a humane, humanistic position, personal, sensitive, compassionate, about the brutal attack by Hamas, including the murder of faculty and students. We expected you to respond emphatically to the Israeli return of the repressed. Yes, the Holocaust is back on our mind. This is what is at stake for us. But the messages you published or sent us, after some prodding, I should say, were a formulaic condemnation of all violence on all sides. You played defense. You wished the problem would disappear somehow. It is not your business, after all. As Klaus Mann wrote in his critique of the Nazi regime, most Germans argue that it's not their business. I am just a Schauspieler, said Mephisto in the film. I am just a university president, you intimate in a similar manner. Why do I need to take a moral stand with regard to the Islamic massacre of Jews in Israel, including faculty and students? Let me share some insights into the cultural trappings behind your cautious and timid response, your balanced and carefully crafted response to the massacre inflicted on Israel by Hamas and the Islamic Jihad. My comments are based on the work of renowned sociologist James Coleman. Some associations sought to achieve balance, a symmetry between a vicious terror attack by Islamic Nazis and the Israeli retaliation against it. The American Physics Society stated as follows, quote, "We deplore the loss of innocent lives and reaffirm our support for the rights and freedoms for all people everywhere, as stated in the United Nations Universal Declaration of Human Rights." Come on, physicists! Other societies evaded getting involved in the conflict and remained quiet altogether. This frustrated and hurt many Israeli scientists. I do not think there is a need to reiterate the horrors. You know how many people, including babies, were massacred and beheaded. You know how they were tortured, butchered and burnt, and how many are kept hostage in Gaza. Yes, you know. So symmetry between the terrorist perpetrators and the state retaliation against it is not a real symmetry. It hides the cause and effect. It hides the fact that one side simply wants to remove Israelis from the map, to annihilate us. Last week, Hamas and Islamic Jihad were horribly successful in demonstrating their policy and theology, ideas made into matter. But Israel has neither the wish nor intentions to make the Palestinians disappear. There is neither balance nor symmetry between the warring parties. It therefore makes your life difficult. You must take a moral stand, and this is indeed fearful. Professor Claudine Gay of Harvard, for example, had to rewrite her initial lukewarm response, probably not because she wanted to. Rather, she had to do so under pressure, moral and economic pressure. Permit me to quote two such critiques of Harvard's response to the massacres by Hamas and the Islamic Jihad, which reframed ISIS as childish amateurs in the realm of Islamic butchery and sadism. Here is what Larry Summers, former Harvard president, had to say to Claudine Gay, but essentially to all of you American academic leaders. The silence from Harvard's leadership so far, coupled with a vocal and widely reported student group's statement blaming Israel solely, has allowed Harvard to appear at best neutral towards acts of terror against the Jewish state of Israel. At best neutral. The president and rectors of the Hebrew University of Jerusalem issued a similar condemnation of Claudine Gay and Stanford University president Richard Saller. And I quote, Your administration has failed us. It failed us not only as Israelis who are subject to the imminent threat of being subject to genocide, but also as leaders of an academic institution who expect their American colleagues to present higher moral standards and more courage. I added the American. Israelis are not alone in identifying your fear. As Richie Torres wrote in the New York Post, quote, "What does the silence and indifference and cowardice from these so-called leaders tell us about the depth of anti-Semitism in America and the reckoning required? It is a moral monstrosity," he added. "Something is rotten in the state of America. When institutional leaders in our country cannot condemn the cold-blooded murder of Israeli children and civilians with moral clarity, one must ask, what kind of society are we becoming?" Days of silence were often followed by words of cowardice, if there were any words at all. Strong stuff, my friend. Similar critiques are voiced against University of Pennsylvania, with a major donor saying that moral confusion coming from the top has produced a toxic environment and a culture of fear on campus. As John Huntsman said, moral relativism has fueled the university's race to the moral bottom. I added the moral. I cannot agree more with the above observation of your lack of courage. In fact, a moral stand requires courage to withstand criticism. This is what the essence of morality is. There is a price to pay for taking a stand. Yes, morality requires courage, but many of you suspected that taking a moral position on the Islamic slaughter of Israelis would put you in a moral minefield that you wish to avoid. Why me, you seemingly said. As the critics above suggested, it is indeed fear that underlies the belated, tepid and half-hearted statements of support of Israel. Yes, some of you sent a cautious and calculated response, if at all. You fear hurting the feelings of anyone else on your campus, you say. You fear taking a moral position because deep down you feel deeply insecure. You take brave actions or make bold statements, but only when there is little risk, as in sexual harassment cases, for example. But Israel and Palestine? My God, this is a danger zone. Best to stay out, you say. It is not just Claudine Gay and Richard Saller and Hugh Penn who failed us. Israeli leaders and rank-and-file scientists asked their American colleagues to express moral support. We sent letters to leading associations and societies across the disciplines, to national academies and national laboratories. Few responded. Few had taken a clear moral stand. Rather, most of you were slow to take a moral position, if you did at all. And there are consequences for walking between the drops. Shocked by your moral impartiality, some donors either resign from your institution or threaten to sever relations. It was only after such strong actions that some of you rewrote their position. For example, in her third revision of her response, President Claudine Gay finally said, and I quote, "That there be no doubt that I condemn the terrorist atrocities perpetrated by Hamas. Such inhumanity is abhorrent whatever one's individual views, the origins of the long-standing conflicts in the region." Thank you, President Gay. Finally, let me now expand a bit on the temp-like, robot-like response some of you have sent us. Driven by insecurity and lack of courage, your best strategy was to adhere to a well-designed template that actually says nothing. You think it keeps you clean and safe from the trappings of taking a moral stand. These days, one cannot escape the advice of artificial intelligence. So, I asked one of them to take the position of an American university president and respond to calls to take a stand on the horrific attack by Islamists against the Israelis. Here is a Quote from AI advice to American university presidents for crafting their response. Listen and see how similar your actual response was to the bot. Because you do indeed use a template. Your standard operating procedure is to follow a cautious protocol, to play defense. Quote, in the wake of the tragic incident, American university presidents have historically taken carefully measured approaches when responding to events with potential geopolitical ramifications. It is common for university presidents to express condolences for the victims and to call for a cessation of violence on all sides. They often emphasize the need for peace negotiations and a diplomatic resolution of the conflict, urging both Israelis and Palestinians to engage in dialogue. American university presidents often walk a fine line in addressing such incidents, considering the delicate balance of international relations and the complexities of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. Their statements typically aim to maintain relationships with key stakeholders. And on the bot wrote your response. Yes, this is how the heartless AI robot writes your response template. This is how we read your messages. Templates for evading moral responsibility and knee-jerk protocol to remain neutral. However, here we culturally differ. We wanted you to walk away from the protocol. We asked you to open your eyes and hearts, to be persons, individuals, fathers, mothers, sisters, brothers, just plain individuals, and tell us what you really think in view of the horrific actions taken by the Palestinians in Gaza against the Israelis. And we expected that you would listen to your Palestinian students and clearly hear what they support and what they want for all Israelis and all Jews, including your Jewish students. Free Palestine comes with elimination hatred. It is not a simple political position. It is a call for violence, for annihilation. It wishes the return of the Holocaust. But despite this deep meaning, you retreated. You refused to confront the covered-faced students waving Palestinian flags because you fear them. There were some moments of support, but hardly from American academia. No university president was as clear as your president and your Secretary of State. No scientific association president or academy sounded a message like the New York mayor delivered, and he did it on time. But their moral stand does not cover up your moral failure. You had to move away from the PR protocol and be you, real people, confronting a real catastrophe for a traumatized Israel and Israeli academia. Believe me, you do not need another committee to advise you on how to respond to Islamic massacres and butchery of innocent citizens, Jewish or not Jewish, American, Israeli, or today Swedish. And you need not sound like an AI bot. All you need is moral courage to be a person. Put yourself or your family members in the position of the victims in Israel and think, what would you expect a moral American university president to say under those circumstances? And what would you expect chairs of scientific societies to stand for in these horrific times? Would you expect the AI to write a response for you? So it turns out that in America, a moral stand requires the courage of a real president. Most of you rather opted for conformity to protocol and template. So, dear American university presidents, dear leaders of American scientific associations and societies, leaders of national academies and national laboratories, you disappointed us, Israelis. We feel you even betrayed us. We expected you to take a clear moral stand, to express a humane, humanistic position. We expected a personal, sensitive, compassionate and emphatic response to the murderous attack by Islamic Hamas. We expected because We fear the return of the repressed, the Holocaust, and by following the cultural template of sober neutrality, you failed us. You stood on the sidelines just as Europe did during World War II. Some of my colleagues wondered if American university leaders are morally dumb. No, I replied, but their cautious habits make them morally numb. And though it is one step higher than morally dumb, moral numbness is no virtue at all. Dear American colleagues, you will forever regret your moral trepidation after October 7. We will forever remember it. Finally, to my friends at the National Academy of Education, thank you. Late response, but appropriate. Thank you. From Jerusalem, I am Professor Gad Yair.